Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley II is now official after Tommy Fury pulled out of their fight with an injury, and Darren Till versus Uriah Hall is in the works for next year. I thought I'd break down all of these topics in today's MMA news reaction video, starting with Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley II being made official because Tommy Fury pulled out of their fight. Tyron Woodley steps in on short notice. Thank you, Tyron Woodley, for keeping the event alive, I guess, and giving us something to watch around that time too, because it's going to be a decently big fight. I don't think it'll be as big as the first one because, in all honesty, the first one was a bit of a letdown. Tyron Woodley refused to be aggressive against Jake Paul in the majority of that fight, and a lot of people were very let down. But let's start first of all with Tommy Fury pulling out with an injury. I don't blame him for pulling out with an injury because he's shown an x-ray, he said he's part of the story. Jake Paul said that Tommy Fury broke a rib. He's broken a rib. It's a big deal to break a rib, because if that gets forced inwards, like let's say you get punched in your rib because he's got a boxing match coming up soon, that can go straight into your lung and can puncture your lung, and all of a sudden you're not Tommy Fury anymore. You're the guy gasping for air with a punctured lung on the canvas, while Jake Paul does the floss in celebration of beating you in a boxing match in front of the world. And now you not only have to change your name to Tommy Fumbles, but you've got a punctured lung and you could possibly die. So I do not blame Tommy Fury for pulling out of this fight. I know a lot of people are going to call him a coward. A lot of people are going to call him Tommy Fumbles. You fumbled the Jake Paul fight. But I know for a fact I would not risk getting punched in the body, or the ribs specifically, if I had a broken rib, knowing that my lungs are right behind them. And Jake Paul mentioned in his... He made a video about this, responding to Tommy Fury pulling out, and he mentioned something like, I fought with a broken nose before, I fought with a broken hand. Like, yeah, there's not vital organs in your hand or your nose. Like, your nostrils don't control your life essence as a human. You know what I mean? Like, there's no... just behind your knuckles aren't mini hearts on your body that are keeping your bloodstream going. This is a real injury. If he did, in fact, have a broken rib, which... it seems like he does because he's shown the x-ray. Jake Paul agrees, yeah, it's a broken rib, that's why he pulled out. I don't think he should be shamed for it. He had an infection. Apparently he broke it a couple of weeks ago and didn't tell anyone about it, and that'll probably be why. I think at the press conference his dad and brother were mentioning he could beat you with a broken rib. Maybe that was a bit of a Freudian slip and they sort of just let it out without realising, but it was in the air. He apparently already broke his rib and he wasn't sparring because of it, and he tried to go back to sparring and he took a body shot and it hurt him so badly he couldn't continue. So I don't blame the guy. You know, he's a young guy, doesn't need to risk his life against Jake Paul, really. And if you want to fight Jake Paul, you'd rather do it as healthy as possible, especially with your ribs intact at least. I believe the fight will still happen. If Jake Paul does get past Tyron Woodley II in the meantime, we'll see if that one goes down. So let's talk about that matchup now. Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley II. I'm not that interested because, I picked Jake Paul to win the first fight. I thought he'd win it by KO. He won it by decision, very clearly. At this point, if you don't think that's true, like Clarissa Shields, an actual, like, women's GOAT boxer, doesn't think Woodley lost that fight, you're just plain delusional or completely biased. Jake Paul won the fight by decision. Probably like every other round but two of them. Maybe the fourth round where he got cracked and sent into the ropes. And then the other round at the end in round 8 where he just sort of cruised because he got the decision win. But, I don't care about this because Tyron Woodley let me down so much. I wanted Woodley to win. He's the MMA guy. I did not want the MMA world to be completely embarrassed and shown up as terrible fucking boxers by Tyron Woodley losing to Jake Paul. I just thought Jake Paul would win because he's actually been doing boxing and Woodley hadn't been. Woodley's got a chance because he's been doing boxing in the meantime. He's been mentioning maybe going into like Triad Combat Boxing and some other BKFC promotions and stuff like this. So he has been training on his boxing. But I still believe Jake Paul beats him because you're just giving Jake Paul, every single time you delay these matchups and delay the Tommy Fury fight and have this Woodley fight on short notice, you're giving Jake Paul more of a chance to improve. He's new to the game. Every month is massive for him. Every week is massive for him to improve. And the hype is dead around this rematch, I'll be honest. This won't be a big fight. I believe it's competing with Chris Daukaus versus Derek Lewis, which has Wonderboy versus Bilal Muhammad as the co-main event, and a bunch of other great fights as well that could compete with it. But there's not major competition against it, but I don't believe this is going to do big numbers whatsoever, because the mystique was, going into the first fight, here's Tyron Woodley. He's a real gangster, with his shades on, doing that stoic look, saying these nuts with a straight face to Jake Paul. He's a real stoic gangster. Jake Paul ain't lived the life that Woodley's lived. He don't have the culture that Woodley has. Woodley's gonna hit him with that culture. Woodley's the real gangster out here. He's lived a gangster lifestyle. And then he proceeded to get in the ring with a YouTuber and fight like, and I know I'm just a guy in my room. I'm a guy in my room. And I'm maybe a pussy as well. Okay? But I know a pussy when I see one. Okay? And Tyron Woodley fought like a pussy against Jake Paul. Not a gangster. Not a savage. Not a guy who's been in that life. You feel me? He didn't fight like that at all. He fought like a pussy. He stared at Jake Paul for every round other than round 4. Did fucking nothing the majority of the fight other than wait for that perfect shot. And we should have seen it coming, ideally, because that's what he did in every fucking UFC fight before he was left. Other than the Vicente Luque fight where he went for it and got finished brutally, he sat there and did nothing but wait for the perfect shot. It's how he lost to Usman. It's how he lost to Covington. It's how he lost to Gilbert Burns too. I don't feel in any way excited about this. The build-up just won't have the same effect. Like, he was a YouTuber in my eyes before who could box a little bit and maybe had the advantage over Woodley because he was way bigger. Now, Woodley's, like, I've seen Woodley be a pussy for 8 rounds, and now I'm supposed to be excited by it. I guess the short notice step up does create more hype than it would if this was just a rescheduled rematch that they had. And there is obviously the narrative that he did in fact get the I Love Jake Paul tattoo as a 40-year-old man nearly with kids. Society is on a downward spiral, I tell you, fucking hell. He got the tattoo, so technically he did do what needed to be done in order to get himself the rematch, and now he's got the rematch. But guess what was done in the build-up to this fight for Jake Paul? No roid tests. So he's going to be roided up against Tyron Woodley when he thought he was getting roided up to take on Tommy Fury, his biggest test of his career so far. Got roided up for the Tommy Fury fight, but now he's going to be roided up for Woodley. So what has Woodley stepped into? If the first time they had drug tests and it was somewhat clean, this time there's literally no drug tests whatsoever. They had like urine tests last time, which are pretty inaccurate, but still they don't let the guy take fucking horse tranquilizer and shit like that. So Jake Paul's going to be loaded to the gills against Tyron Woodley. Maybe Woodley gets on the sauce as well, and that maybe would be a terrifying sight. You know what? I'm into it. If they both get roided up, and I see a Woodley looking like a fucking, like slightly fucking descaled Yoel Romero out there, I'm going to be pretty entertained to see what he does to Jake Paul. But I do believe that Jake Paul wins this one. Fury's not going to be in peak shape whatsoever. I do want to mention as well in this bout, Woodley, no more Fury, fumbles. Woodley has only had a few weeks to prepare, and also, he mentioned his comeback was set to happen around July of next year. So he wasn't really looking to come back anytime soon. I saw a post of him where he said, July next year we make it happen and I have 4 fights for the rest of the year in 4 different promotions. He's not really thinking fight time. He's thinking Christmas, New Year's with my family, relax, chill, smoke a little bit, enjoy life with the money I just made fighting Jake Paul. But now, he's got a chance against Jake Paul. Jake Paul has offered him $500,000 if he KOs him. That's in a contract. I rate Jake Paul for that move. He doesn't even have to do that, but he adds some spice to the fight. That's how confident he is that he's going to win. I'll go with Jake Paul by KO again, but this time I'm more confident that it happens. I think Woodley will go for him this time, and that will leave him open for counter shots, because if you didn't see the first fight, this doesn't go mentioned enough. Jake Paul landed a bunch of big shots on Woodley that could have KO'd him. I think if Woodley goes a bit more aggressive this time, first of all, he won't have the same gas tank, because he'll go more aggressive, he'll throw more volume, and he's had less of a training camp as well, and he's not in peak condition. And Jake Paul's on the sauce, if not more sauce than last time, and he's better at boxing now because he's got another few months to prepare and another few months to get better with a great gym around him. I'm going Jake Paul by KO. Good matchup though, I guess. It don't have the same effect. The Tommy Fury one was interesting because it's a Fury family member. He's actually a good boxer. Jake Paul's probably going to lose. But this one, I guess it just builds up even more the Tommy Fury fight. If I was Tommy Fury, I'd relax, get the rib as good as I can in the next few weeks, and then go down and be cage side or ring side for that fight, and hopefully Jake Paul calls him out afterwards, and this could build the fight even more. If Jake Paul gets a big KO win, he's going to carry that hype over into another fight with Tommy Fury and maybe get it rebooked, but we'll see how it goes. Moving on to another topic of information, which was Darren Till versus Uriah Hall. In the works for a London card on March. I assumed this was going to happen. I was actually going to make a London card builder. I might do that anyway, but there's just so many fights signed on it now that I feel like it'd just be me adding like 7 fights to the card or something like that. But I could do it anyway. Let me know in the comments below. But Darren Till versus Uriah Hall, targeted for UFC London. If he fucking fucks up this one, Darren Fumble should be his new name, because Uriah Hall is sort of a good matchup for Darren Till. He's not going to shoot takedowns. He's terrified of being damaged in any way whatsoever. And he's a striker, and he's old, and he's had his damage, and he just took way more damage against Sean Strickland, where he broke his orbital bone in that fight as well. So, good matchup for Darren Till. I think Darren Till gets it done. I think it'll be a very boring fight for 5 rounds, and it'll be a decision win for Darren Till if I had to pick a way that he wins. I don't see him TKOing Uriah Hall. Don't see a submission of any kind. I could maybe see the idea of Uriah Hall KOing Darren Till. Honestly, I could see a KO for Darren Till, because if Sean Strickland can land shots that rock Uriah Hall and have him in trouble against a cage, I'm sure Till can land those shots as well, but I just wouldn't bet on it. I think Till's going to go out there, be extra careful, extra boring, and have a very, very slow fight where he barely outlands Uriah Hall by 2 or 3 strikes a round, because Uriah Hall is the same as Darren Till, but older, a little bit more dangerous, but a little bit worse at striking. So I'd go with Darren Till winning this one, and if he doesn't win, I don't know. They'll probably give him another chance, but should they? That'll be another one in a row. I think he's won 2 out of his last 6. I believe 7 if he loses this one. So that would be a real time to consider another job, trying to do something else, or at least going to another promotion for a bit and then trying to come back into the UFC, because if he loses this one, he's going to get like a Dricus du Plessis or even like an Andre Muniz coming off a win, a big grappler that's going to take him down. So he needs to win this one if he wants any chance to get into the top, because I feel like there's a wave of middleweights coming right now. Some grappling middleweights, Dricus du Plessis, Andre Muniz. Some good capable grapplers are coming up in the middleweight division right now. Nasruddin Imavov is a great grappler too. And I think those grapplers would give Darren Till a lot of problems. So if he wants to get to the belt, he's got to do it now. Beat Uriah Hall. Call out the loser of Cannonier versus Brunson. I don't know if he'd get the Brunson rematch, though. So call out the loser of Adesanya Whittaker. Maybe he gets the Whittaker rematch as Whittaker's bounce-back fight if he loses to Israel Adesanya, which I believe is going to happen. And then he can work his way back from there, but I worry, because Darren Till is he's a big underperformer. I think he should have beat Brunson. He showed up fat. He showed up out of shape. He had a bad knee in that fight, of course, we learned afterwards. And it's obvious because he was completely out of shape. But he was doing okay against Brunson towards the end of that fight. Of course, Brunson KO'd Uriah Hall in the first round, but different Brunsons, different Uriah Halls, different Darren Tills. So, good matchup. There's a chance Till gets KO'd. There's a chance he wins a very boring decision. There's a chance he KOs Uriah Hall, but I would put my money on a Darren Till 4-1 on rounds. Maybe he gets dropped in one of the rounds, but pops back up and gets back to his feet, but loses 10-9. But I think he just minorly outstrike Uriah Hall for the majority of this fight, landing leg kicks, landing left hands, and just winning by a couple of strikes a round. Moving on to another topic of discussion, which was Amanda Ribas versus Michelle Waterson. So, oh, a fight. Yeah, this one's a fight. Yeah, just lots of grappling, please. A lot of grappling would be great. A lot of north-south positions, a lot of triangle attempts, a lot of triangle escapes. Let's get a grappling heavy fight here, in my opinion. Or a stand-up fight. I don't mind either. Just, this is a great match made for the male fan base of MMA. Amanda Ribas, Michelle Waterson, the old and the new. I reckon Amanda Ribas is probably going to win this one. I could maybe see Michelle Waterson winning, but it seems like she's fading a little bit at this point in her career. She's had her kids. Mom Champ is kind of like a failed attempt to get her towards the title shot again. Hasn't really been performing well in her last few fights. Didn't she lose to Marina Rodriguez in her last one quite dominantly as well? I'll just have a little look right now, because it might not have been Marina Rodriguez in all honesty. But she's a good fighter. Both are good fighters. This would be a big fight. It's in a fight night card, so I hope it's like the co-main event or something like that. March 26th. I believe that will make it a co-main event, because I think there's another matchup announced on that date on March 26th. So I'm looking forward to the matchup. Big fight in the women's strawweight division. A very good fight in the women's strawweight division. I'm going to look forward to watching it a lot of times on my own after the card's done as well. Just a lot of grappling, please, would be really grand. But the UFC knows what they're doing here. New heartthrob of the UFC strawweight division, old heartthrob of the UFC strawweight division. They want at least one of them to succeed, so at least Amanda Ribas maybe should get a win here. I'm sure they want Amanda Ribas to win and move up the rankings and sort of get rid of Michelle Waterson, who's sort of lost a little bit of hype recently. But you know what? It's a good matchup. They're both decently good fighters, and I'll look forward to watching it. Michelle Waterson's now 35 years of age, lost to Marina Rodriguez quite dominantly in her last fight, but had some moments of success, of course, as well. But I just think this is it for her. And I'll go with an Amanda Ribas submission. I think they'll end up on the ground. Amanda Ribas will get an armbar or a rear naked choke, and that's how she'll win herself this fight. But it's on March 26th. Which is the Blachowicz versus Rakic card, and this is the co-main event. There you go. Co-main event, Michelle Waterson, Amanda Ribas. Main event, Jan Blachowicz, Alexander Rakic. Sounds like a good card already. Add a nice little feature fight in there as well, and you've got yourself an amazing card. Moving on to another topic of discussion, which was... What was the other topic of discussion I had? Surely there was one of them. I think there was. There must have been another topic of discussion here, surely. Oh, yes. 271 will be held in Houston. Ah, that's what it was. They're bringing back crowds. 271's going to be in Houston, Texas. And Columbus, Ohio is going to be Jan Blachowicz versus Alexander Rakic, of course. Both of them Ohio natives. They're literally almost right next to each other in Europe. Why not Europe? But whatever. All good. No European cards. Despite two top European light heavyweights. Could be a battle of Europe, but no. The Serbian and the Polishman must battle it out in Columbus, Ohio. Fucking Americanized sport. It pisses me off. Anyway, ran out of breath there. Moving on. Rashad Evans is returning. What the fuck are you doing, you stupid prick? Just fucking retire. I'm sick of it. These fucking fighters coming back, thinking they run the place. Like, why are you coming back, dude? Rashad Evans will fight, and it's not even an assumption, it's going to happen. Rashad Evans will fight at Eagle FC 44 in Miami on January 28th. No opponent set yet. So he's skipping his Christmas and New Year's to fight in a regional promotion of Eagle FC. And this is weird because the comments mention this. Habib letting him do it, but he called Aldo out for the same thing. True. He's talking a crap about Aldo for continuing to fight for the money fight, but he's organising a Rashad Evans comeback in the main event of his Eagle FC Americanized debut. Why would Rashad do this? Like, he's vegan now, completely weak, completely soyified, no muscle mass whatsoever compared to what he used to have, seems weaker than usual. He should have retired before his last run that he lost on in the UFC against the Anthony Smiths of the world. He should have retired before that shit. Him coming back against Anthony Smith was a dumb decision. He's got his brains, he's kind of good as an analyst, he's an analyst in the UFC right now, and also, if you're going to come back, why not come back for a UFC promotion or a UFC parented promotion like LFA or something like that? Because going to an opposite promotion not only gives you a chance of getting KO'd, which will most likely happen because you're a vegan now, but you shouldn't be back anyway because you got chinned so many times in your career. You should have called it a day years ago. You're coming back, and you're also coming back to a promotion that's not the UFC while you work for the UFC. How do you think they're going to take that shit? Oh, you want to go to Eagle FC? There goes your analyst job. This might be the dumbest decision made in combat sports. He's going to lose his analyst job at ESPN because he's no longer fighting for the UFC, or he's betrayed the UFC to go and fight somewhere else. So they'll definitely bring in someone new to work the analyst desk instead. Like, I bet you Rashad Evans leaves and Aljamain Sterling gets the job. I bet you that's what happens. Calling it right now. Aljo will get an analyst job. And actually, I know Aljo gets a lot of shit for the way he acted and the way he got the belt. But he's a very good analyst. And he watches the fights closely. And he knows what he's talking about. So I wouldn't even mind Aljo on the desk over fucking Rashad. And he said, it's gonna be a great fight. Rashad Evans he's already mush-brained. Why get even further mush-brained? Whatever though. They must be paying him a lot of money. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.